the original Silver Sky is what I wanted to talk about to start with, because it was revealed to be like the third best-selling guitar in 2021 on Reverb. What was number one? Number 1 and 2 were actually the Fender Mexican Player Telecaster and the Mexican Player Stratocaster, which kind of are, I think, what PRS are trying to compete with now with the Silver Sky SE. Although that sounds like a good thing, what that also means is that those, presumably most of what people are selling on Reverb is second hand, right? And that means that people have tried a PRS Silver Sky and then sold it shortly afterwards. Am I wrong about that? I could be wrong about that, but I think Reverb is less a platform for buying new than it is used. But in any case, you can get them now for about £2,099. I'm looking at one right now on Reverb new. So you can buy used and new from Reverb, but I'm presuming that there's some element of those that are being moved on. But you can buy a used Silver Sky quite a lot of the time, I find. Anyway, so the question, are they overhyped or worth the hype or worth the money? I think if you compare them to a Fender Custom Shop Stratocaster, as I did in previous videos, the Silver Sky I think comes up quite nicely in that kind of comparison. I found that the pickups on it had a really beautiful clarity. I felt like it was a resonant guitar, played really well, it was lightweight. If you can get past the looks part of it and the John Mayer part of it, and the PRS part of it, which are like the trifecta of reasons that you might want to avoid this guitar, then it was a really good playing guitar in its own right, and a great sounding guitar, I thought. So in that respect, I think it was worth the money. It's not a cheap guitar, but it is a cheap guitar compared to a Fender Custom Shop Strat. And they hold their value relatively well. You know, you can pick them up for about $1,700, $1,800, $1,600 used, so they're dropping in price a little bit. I don't know whether we'll continue to see that. As I say, if they're apparently Reverb's third best-selling guitar, then it seems like there could be a lot of them around on the used market, and that might be a good opportunity to buy one, maybe. So yeah, I think probably worth the money you can pick them up for, and they wouldn't have been used a whole lot, I'd have assumed. A lot of the people that might have tried one might have been, you know, collectors, and in any case they won't have been gigged much because basically things have been under lockdown mostly for the last couple of years. So a used Silver Sky I think looks like a pretty good bet, especially if you're going for a vintage kind of spec Strat type guitar and you think, alright, I don't necessarily want to buy a Fender, or I don't necessarily want to spend $3,000 or $2,500 on a used one. I would recommend trying one because I was actually surprised by how much better it was than I thought it might be and how good it sounded. I thought 7.25 inch radius could be a thing for some people, but that's my thoughts on the Silver Sky. Right, okay, so we all know that today is the launch of the PRS Silver Sky SE, but I was looking back at some of my videos and remembering quite fondly my experience with a friend's PRS Silver Sky. This one was the one in Dodgem Blue, and I'm thinking back to what I really liked about that guitar. And I think the thing that sticks out most of all was that it was super resonant and, you know, felt lightweight and lovely to play. And also the pickups in it I think really sounded good. Even with higher gain, there was like a real clarity, not a John Mayer pun, to the pickups. And I think that's something that a lot of people maybe noticed about those. And I'm interested to see if, once the reviews start coming in from the Silver Sky SE stuff, whether that's going to be a similar story. I've actually just put an order in for one in the Moon White, which I don't know why you call it white when that's definitely a yellow guitar, but I'm interested to see if they're decent. I think, like you, the viewer, I'm semi-skeptical. It doesn't necessarily matter too much where a guitar is made in some ways, but you know, the PRS quality control and the quality of PRS made in the US, I think, are very highly regarded. The Cork factory of course makes some great guitars as well, but you'd imagine they're having to cut some corners somewhere, not just labour costs to keep this guitar beneath that price range. A couple of things which stand out to me as being slightly odd. I'm not sure why you'd have a 2-point trem in that guitar. John Mayer always, as far as I can tell, used a vintage trem with 6 screws from his Fender to his vintage Fenders, to his signature models, to his actual PRS signature model. So that to me sticks out to being quite odd. I'm not sure the radius difference in the fretboard is something that's going to be a big problem, but that vintage trem, when I play guitars with a 2-point trem, that trem does slit slightly higher than a 6-point vintage trem, and there's definitely a different feel to it, and definitely a different way to how it resonates with the body, or feels to the body at least. So I'll be interested to see how that ends up translating. I'm sort of semi-skeptical. I've seen a lot of people saying, you know, I could buy a Mexican Strat for roughly half that, and that's certainly true. You know, if you're looking for a Stratocaster style guitar, there's loads of options. Even at the higher end of like the £1,000, you could probably be getting a used American Professional, or you could be getting a Tokai, which I've had great experiences with. You know, they do a vintage 7.25 radius Strat, you know, built like a Strat with a vintage trem. I think that might be an option, but I'll reserve judgment for them. This is just, I wanted to share some of these outtakes from the day where I was borrowing this guitar and playing inappropriate music on a Silver Sky. But I'll be watching some of these reviews come in, and hopefully in the next couple of days I'll have a review of a Silver Sky SE. I'll do some live streams with it. Feel free to leave comments if you've got questions anticipating some of that stuff, maybe some tones that you want to see tried from it. Why is that there? And you know, any other sort of questions you might have, comparison ideas, I can maybe try and put something together. But yeah, let me know in the comments if you're interested in that at all. I think the Silver Sky, the actual full model, wasn't terribly priced for what you get anyway compared to like a Fender Custom Shop. So if the SE is anything like that guitar, I think it could be interesting, but we'll wait and see. Here's some more playing.